Ad hominem is a pervasive logical fallacy that shifts the focus of an argument from its substance to attacking the person making the argument by delving deeper into its nuances and implications. Characteristics of ad hominem: targeting the person. Ad hominem attacks target the character, motives, personal traits, or background of an individual rather than the validity or logic of their argument. Distracting from the argument. Primary goal of ad hominem is to divert attention away from the substantive issues being discussed. What is a red herring? A red herring is a logical fallacy where an irrelevant topic is introduced to divert attention from the main issue or argument. The term comes from the practice of using the strong scent of smoked herring to distract hounds from the trail during a hunt. In discussions, it serves a similar purpose, distracting people from the primary point at hand. Characteristics of red herring. Introduction of irrelevant topics. Namos, red herring occurs when someone introduces a tangential or unrelated issue to shift focus from the main argument. Distraction from main issues. It serves to distract listeners or participants from the central point of discussion, steering the conversation in a different direction. Intentional misdirection. Often used deliberately to avoid addressing uncomfortable truths or to manipulate the direction of a debate. Quoque, Latin for you also or you too, is a type of logical fallacy that deflects criticism or avoids addressing an argument by accusing the other person of hypocrisy or inconsistency. To grasp the nuances of quoque and its implications. Characteristics of quoque. Accusation of hypocrisy. Quoque involves responding to an argument by pointing out that the opponent is guilty of the same behavior or inconsistency. Deflecting criticism. Instead of addressing the validity of an argument or claim, quoque shifts the focus to the behavior or actions of the person making the criticism. Avoiding accountability. It is often used as a tactic to avoid taking responsibility for one's actions. Slippery slope. A slippery slope fallacy is a form of reasoning where an argument suggests that a small action or decision will lead to a chain of events culminating in an extreme or undesirable outcome. This fallacy operates on the premise that one event inevitably leads to another without sufficient evidence to support such a claim. Characteristics of slippery slope. Exaggerated consequences. The fallacy exaggerates the potential consequences of an initial action or decision. Predicts a chain reaction. It predicts a sequence of events without providing evidence that each step in the sequence is inevitable. Lack of evidence. Lacks sufficient evidence or reasoning to demonstrate a direct causal link between the initial action and the extreme outcome.
Special pleading is a logical fallacy where someone applies principles, rules, or standards to others while exempting themselves without justification. Characteristics of special pleading. 1. Double standard. It involves applying different standards or rules to oneself compared to others in similar circumstances. 2. Self-exemption. It excuses one's own actions or beliefs from standards or principles that are applied to others. 3. Absence of justification. It lacks a valid justification or reason for why the person should be exempted from the rules or standards.
Loaded question is a fallacy that involves asking a question that has an assumption built into it, which presupposes something that has not been proven or accepted by all the people involved in the conversation. Characteristics. Presupposition. Example: have you stopped cheating on exams? This question assumes that the person being asked has previously cheated on exams without any evidence or admission. Misleading nature. Example: when did you stop beating your wife? This question assumes that the person has beaten their wife at some point, forcing a defensive response. Emotional impact. You support policies that harm innocent civilians. This question assumes that the policies in question harm innocent civilians without providing evidence or context.
False dilemma, also known as the black or white fallacy or false dichotomy, is a logical fallacy where a situation is presented as having only two possible outcomes or options, when in reality there are additional possibilities or nuances that haven't been considered. Characteristics of false dilemma. Binary presentation. You're either with us or against us. This statement simplifies a nuanced situation into only two extreme positions. Oversimplification. Either we cut taxes completely or the economy will collapse. This oversimplifies economic policy by presenting only extreme options. Limited choices. You can either accept my proposal as is, or we have no deal at all. This restricts negotiation by offering only two rigid options.
Strawman is a fallacy where someone distorts or misrepresents their opponent's argument or position in order to make it easier to attack or refute. Characteristic misrepresentation. Instead of addressing the opponent's argument that gun control measures should be stricter, the speaker argues against a distorted version by claiming they want to completely ban all guns. Attacking the distortion. Example, instead of addressing concerns about environmental impact, company representative argues against a strawman by claiming environmentalists want to halt all industrial progress. Creating a false choice. Either we adopt this economic policy that benefits the rich, or we become a socialist state. This oversimplifies the discussion, and circular reasoning, also known as begging the question, is a logical fallacy where the conclusion of an argument is assumed in the premise, creating a circle in reasoning where no useful information is conveyed. Instead of providing evidence or a logical basis for the conclusion, the argument merely restates the initial assertion in different terms. Characteristics of circular reasoning. 1. Circular structure. The Bible is the Word of God because God tells us it is in the Bible. 2. Assumes the conclusion. You can trust me because I'm telling you the truth. 3. No external support. Example, I believe in ghosts because I have seen them and I trust my senses. Appeal to authority is a logical fallacy where the validity of an argument is based on the authority, expertise, or reputation of the person making the claim rather than on the strength of the argument itself. Characteristic reliance on sources' credentials. Example, Dr. Smith says that
Climate change is a hoax, so it must be true.
2. Lack of substantive evidence. Example, according to a Nobel Prize-winning scientist, homeopathy works, therefore it is effective. 3. Inappropriate use of authority. Even experts can be wrong or biased, and their statements should be evaluated based on the merit of their arguments rather than their authority alone.